Hello farmers, welcome to another episode of Agribusiness Talk podcast. Today is the first part of a two-part program on market information. So market information involves the distribution and sometimes analysis of market data. This kind of information is very valuable to crop and livestock farmers and also to traders, processors and everyone involved in the business of agriculture. With new technologies such as mobile phones now widely available, market information dissemination can even more effectively help farmers to increase their income and improve their food security.
That's right. Farmers now have to take a greater responsibility for marketing their agricultural produce. And at the same time, they also have the opportunity to supply a wider range of products. Whether they're seeking to sell their traditional products or to market their new products, they need to have information about the markets and also the prices. The type of information required by farmers can be summarized as: number one, they need to know who and where their buyers are, how they can be contacted, their conditions of business, their preferences in terms of varieties, in terms of packaging and delivery. They need to know such information. Also, they need to know their immediate or current prices. This helps our farmers to decide whether to sell their crop on a particular day or wait in the hope that the prices will rise, or which can then enable them to decide if the price offered by the local trader is reasonable. The third one is long-term or historical price data. That is data over a certain period, could be a number of years, which helps the farmers to decide, for example, whether it would be profitable to start growing new crops or to grow existing crops. And they can also decide to grow certain crops out of season, that is to produce high quality crops.
So farmers can make use of market information to decide where to sell their produce. That is, at which stage of marketing chain do they want to supply. For example, they can supply at a retail market or at a wholesale market, and at which specific retail or wholesale market. It is important that the farmer should be able to sell his or her produce at a convenient place. In some cases, farmers have several options. They can sell at a farm gate or deliver to a local assembly market. They can also supply a wholesale market directly or sell directly to individual retailers or to large companies that have many retail stores or supermarkets. Another option is selling to companies with whom they have an agreement or contract to buy the crop, and finally selling directly to urban consumers. The further along the marketing chain the farmers go, the higher the price they will normally get. However, a high selling price may not mean that farmers will maximize their income. This depends on the costs involved when farmers decide to sell closer to the final consumer. It can be a lot more costly for a farmer to transport small quantities over a long distance than for a trader to transport large quantities over the same distance. The other way to make use of market information is to check on the prices they are getting. Are they negotiating well with traders? Is the quality of their products the same as the farmer's quality? Are their agents in wholesale markets getting good prices for them? Market information can also be used to decide whether or not to store. Farmers can store some crops for several months if they think the price will go up.
When farmers send their produce to distant markets, they run a risk that the price will not even be able to cover their marketing costs. The price, that is the total revenue of their sales, may not even cover for their marketing costs. Market information can help to avoid such situations. It can also help in terms of reducing the risks associated with marketing. So knowing prices or the market price helps farmers to decide whether it is worth sending their produce to the market. All farmers, wherever they are in the world, face a number of risks. They obviously run the risk that bad weather will damage their crops. They also run the risk that the market prices will not be good enough for them to make a profit. So even worse than not being able to cover their production costs, farmers who take their produce to the markets, which are a long way from the farms, discover that the prices they get are not even good enough to cover their operating and marketing costs, such as transport, handling, and the market fees. For example, tomato farmers who have a production cost of $5 per crate of tomatoes and their marketing cost of $2 per crate, which makes it $7. So that's the total cost. So if the market price for the crate is $7, What it means is they are breaking even. The market information will help farmers to decide whether or not they can send their product to the market. Information about market prices and about quantities supplied to the markets can also reduce such risk of making a loss. The availability of historical price and information can also help minimize such a risk. For instance, it can reduce the risk associated with deciding to store a certain crop for sale later in the year or deciding to grow a certain crop. Market information also helps farmers to decide whether to grow out of season or off-season crops. They can also decide whether or not to grow different crops or to stick to the ones they've been growing in their area. So there are a lot of ways that marketing information can help our farmers.
You have been listening to part 1 of the Market Information Podcast. Next time we will present part 2 of our program. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye farmers, and thank you for listening.